What does the future look like in a town down south? Will it be the home of an 8-time national champion? Because there's already a 7-time national champion, a 10-time SEC champion, a man who has joined us every single week this year, and we have gotten better, smarter, and also entertained by him. The greatest of all time when it comes to college football coaching. Ladies and gentlemen, the head coach at Alabama, Nick Saban. How are you, Coach?
Doing great. How are you?
Hey, I'm fantastic. You're in the happiest place on earth, right? I saw you yesterday with Mickey Mouse. I think I saw you on the internet walking around with Mickey Mouse and Jim Harbaugh. How was the day? How was the festivities? I saw you in the back of a horse and buggy. I think they're doing parades for you. How is life right now? It's got to be wonderful, Coach Saban.
Yeah, well, these are the kind of things that when you go to bowl games, test your ability to have conviction to what you really want to accomplish, what you want to do. Disneyland is great. It's uplifting because everybody's happy. Everybody's got a smile on their face. You're waving at people. So it was a great experience, a good experience. Gave me an opportunity to congratulate Jim Harbaugh and, his 3 players that were there on the great season that they've had. So, all good.
I assume all you great coaches are just on a group text message together. Do you know Harbaugh well? How well and how often do you guys get to connect? And what was that conversation like?
No, it was just a greeting, basically of congratulations. I'm not a big text guy. I'm not a big call guy during the season. You try to stay focused on what's in front of you, which is your team and what you have to do to try to gain the respect that we've worked hard for all year long, but there's really no receipt of that unless you really finish the way you want to finish. So that's where the focus has to be right now. And players have been good so far, and we're going to play against a really good team. So that's what great competitors, really come to a place like Alabama for, is to have the opportunity to play in games like this.
Michigan's favored by 1.5 against your Crimson Tide, who have obviously developed and evolved all year to become the team that knocked off Georgia in the SEC championship. Has that been your messaging to the team, what we just heard there? Like, hey, we've accomplished a lot this year. We're SEC champions. We knocked off 29 straight wins, Georgia, back-to-back national champions. But if you lose the last game of the season, the entire taste in your mouth all offseason is the loss instead of anything good. Is that the messaging? Is that how you're kind of talking to the team? And how have they kind of responded to all of that?
Yeah, well, so far it's been, stay committed to what you have to do. Not just you personally, but the guy next to you, because we need everybody committed to be able to play the way we need to play against a good team. And that's what our focus has been. But I do think that the whole idea of finishing to gain the respect that you worked hard for all year long, you get really no receipt of that unless you finish strong and finish, because these games you've worked your butt off to get to the playoffs, and now you got to try to finish. And if you don't do that, you don't get any receipt for what you've accomplished all year long. So I think the players know and understand that, and they've responded well to it.
Okay, so you had the workout period, then you had the technique period. Now you're in past the game plan period, I believe, with your answer to Coach Pagano last week about how want to implement it whenever we're still back at home, and then critique it, kind of tighten it up whenever we get to Pasadena or to the Rose Bowl for our practices there. Everything going smoothly? We feel like we're right on course with everything, checking every box right now?
Yeah, the players have been good. They've responded well. We practiced well. We actually traveled here on the 26th and had a light workout to get everybody sort of acclimated to the time changes. And I think it's worked out well for us. We've had, really good energy and enthusiasm in practice, and guys been, executing well, but it's going to be a challenging game. They present lots of issues on both sides of the ball, so how well you can execute and adapt to that in the game is going to be, critical to having success.
This Michigan team a few weeks back against Maryland, Penn State actually, when Harbaugh wasn't coaching, they ran the rock 32 straight times. Like, as an old school football guy, I'm sure you got nothing but respect for that decision and for it working out. I mean, that is a hilarious thing to do in 2023. We're just going to run it the entire second half against another Big Ten team. But that's like what they're known for, right? I mean, they are a physical football team. On the defense, they got athletes all over the place. How would you describe this Michigan team? Is that accurate, what I'm saying there and thinking about?
I think they're very capable of being a smash mouth team if they want to. They use a lot of different personnel groups to get in big people, which is something you don't see a lot of in college football now. So something our players have to be able to adapt to. But, we want to be a physical team too. And so I do think, though, that when a team can run the ball on you, it's a little bit of a helpless feeling when you don't have the weapons out there to be able to stop that and create some positive down and distance for yourselves on defense. So you force them to do some other things. And some of that can be, schematically, what do you want to do? Some of these people now that do all this stuff on third down, play eyes coverage and blitz and play zone and do all these things. Sometimes you can keep people out of that if you can keep the down and distance in your favor. So I think some of that can be strategic in terms of how you go into a game and how you actually want to try to play the game.
Two brilliant ball coaches battling in Rose Bowl upcoming Monday, January 1st. These bowl games are awesome. There's always great clips that come out. Tone has a question for you.
Yeah, Coach, speaking of that, sometimes when you're watching a bowl game, they'll show like the day before or 2 days before where teams are either playing tug of war on the beach or they're bowling against each other. Do you have any of those type of obligations for the Rose Bowl? Or just like, this is a college football playoff, this is the Rose Bowl, this is the granddaddy of them all, we don't have to do that here this week?
Well, I think that I trust our players to be able to stay focused when they need to be focused. I also think that when you go to a bowl game, they do have some activities that can be enjoyable for players. But the maturity that your players can show in being able to enjoy those things when they come up, whether it was Disneyland yesterday or, Lowry's one of these nights that they get to go to. I mean, they're all great experiences for the players. But, when we're coming to meetings and we're getting focused, everybody's got to have some conviction and focus on what we need to do and not allow those distractions to have any impact or effect on how you get ready to play the game.
What's the schedule for the boys? What do we got? Workouts in the morning? Do you treat it like you're back at home and then you got practice? Or how does it kind of all work out whenever you're on the road at a hotel?
Well, we try to make it as normal as possible, but we don't really control the times that we can practice totally because of some of these activities that you guys are mentioning. But like we start at 10:15 a day with our special teams meeting, and I think by the time we get to the practice site, it'll be like 12:40 walkthrough, and sort of a regular Wednesday for us, even though it's a Thursday, looking at how the game week transpires. So. We got our emphasis on what we're going to work on today, third down, red area, whatever it might be, and that's what we want our players to be focused on.
Did you take your Lambo Ferrari? Did you get your Ferrari shipped out there so you can drive around? Did you get that? No?
Hell no.
They have those that could do that, I don't know. Ty has a question for you, Coach.
Yeah, Coach, Pat mentioned it off the jump, and obviously your resume, 7 national championships, you've won 10 SEC championships, so you've done this so many times, but before a game like this, will you still get like some nerves maybe the night before, like some nervous energy personally, and also like do you subscribe to kind of that old notion? Like I had some coaches say like, hey, if you're nervous before a big game, that just means that you kind of put in the requisite amount of preparation to kind of get ready to go do what you need to do.
I think I don't think you ever lose this. I mean, Chuck could probably address this too. I don't care what game you're playing or who you're playing. I think as a coach, you always have a certain level of anxiety. Every day in practice, in preparation, are the players getting what you want them to get? Are we executing it the way we want to execute it? And, that leads up to the game. But, sometimes as a coach, you're thinking of all the good things that can happen in a game and things you prepared for, but you're also thinking some things that, could go wrong in the game and how you're going to respond to that in the game and how you're going to adjust. So I don't think that little bit of nervous energy ever really goes away. And with me, it's kind of there every day. I mean, even for practice, I want to have a good practice today, and I want the players to have good energy and enthusiasm in what they're doing so that we all have confidence that we're going to go in the game and be able to execute these things when these issues present themselves.
So he asked a follow-up question there about like the nervousness that you earn and the pressure that you've worked hard for. And I don't think I ever really got nervous for anything. Like you could kind of drop me anywhere and I'll just kind of act as if it's almost the complete opposite way. Like I didn't care enough about the situation. Like I didn't know enough or locked in about the situation. So I had to like mature in that entire situation and facet of my competitive juices. Do you know like when a guy is seemingly like having a tough time dealing with the moment? And like, have you had to talk to people about handling the pressure and things like that in the past? Because I think whatever we think about the Alabama roster, it's like 5-star guys made for the moment, superstar, spotlight, but every game's big for Alabama. Every single game is a massive game. Do you ever have to deal with that with guys that you recruit, or does that ever happen?
I think the bigger issue with young guys is not necessarily, the anxiety or the pressure that you're talking about. It's how do they handle sort of all the external factors and things that are happening around them so that they can stay focused when they need to actually on the field. Because there's a lot of things going on in college football right now. You got transfer portal, you got guys getting ready to go out for the draft, you got people calling the players, trying to get them to do various things. So, and I think the sense of purpose that a player has and understanding that the only thing that creates value for you is to play well. And if you're going to play well, you got to prepare well. And if you can be mature enough to understand that and handle that, then it's not really necessarily the pressure. It's, are you able to stay focused to do the things you need to do to be at the top of your game individually, because that creates value for you, and it also creates value if everybody on the team can, do their job well. So when I said early, everybody's got to have, a commitment to doing their job, but you also got to have a commitment to make sure the guy next to you is doing your job, because football is a great team game. So if all 11 guys don't execute, bad things can happen. So that's what we're trying to avoid. That's what we're trying to get guys to stay focused on. And I think our team's been pretty good about that so far.
Isn't it crazy how much the preparation is literally the answer to everything? Hard work is literally the answer to everything. And those massive moments, I've been very lucky to get to a couple of those by riding the coattails of great teams. It's like when you start thinking, you literally just go back to your fundamentals. And when did your fundamentals happen? Well, in all your work. It's like, it's a wild thing that I think some people in the modern age, and I also had this whenever I was just getting started in the football world, my freshman year, sophomore year of college there. It's like everybody thinks there's a magic bullet. Like you become great or you can do this. It's like the amount of work doesn't show up until it shows up. In a college football playoff game is certainly one of those situations where everything's at its peak and you have to be great everywhere. Don't you agree with that, Coach Saban?
Absolutely. And it's cumulative effect, cumulative effect of the habits that you create. And I think one of the things that you mentioned about fundamentals is when you don't play for a long time, that's one of the big concerns. Are you going to use the right footwork in blocking a guy? Are you going to create the right habit in how you run a route? Tackling becomes a huge issue for defensive players, when you haven't played for a long time, because you don't really tackle in practice, but you got to get yourself in position to tackle. So, all these fundamental issues are things that I think can create really good performance. And that's something when you don't play for a long time that you're really concerned about, trying to get your players to play with good fundamentals.
In the NFL, those first 3 preseason games and then the first 4 games for the guys that didn't play in preseason, there's a lot of guys just kind of getting out of tackles. This break between this bowl is why we've talked about it with early signing day, portal stuff, obviously the holidays. Now we have a game that is the biggest game of the year. It's insane how you got to manage it all. You've been able to do it, though, obviously, more than anybody else. You're the guy. Coach Pagano has a question for you, Coach Saban.
Hey, Coach. I was fortunate enough to be able to coach NFLPA Bowl in L.A. in 2019, the year I was out, year I came to visit you guys, the first of that 2018 season. That hotel, from a logistics standpoint, it's the Intercontinental Hotel I believe you're staying at.
Jeez.
And check-in is on the 70th floor.
Okay, all right.
You got to go down to go up and whatever.
This guy's got an Italian jacket on right now, just outing everything.
What the hell?
Take it easy.
I think Nick's got some pies on him. But from a logistics standpoint, I'm guessing you haven't been going to the Rose Bowl every day. Will you go to the Rose Bowl at least once, do your final walkthrough, give them an idea what the locker room's like? Because having been there recently, it's an older facility. I mean, iconic facility, but the locker room is not the greatest of locker rooms.
Wow.
From a high school standpoint, where have you been going logistically, the bus ride, traffic, all that stuff? Has that been okay?
Yeah, it's been great. We're working out at this facility. It's a good facility. We got 2 really good practice fields. Players have been good about it. I'd never been one to take the players to the game site the day before the game. Even when we play on the road and we get there on Friday, we usually get there, in time to have dinner, have meetings at night, get up the next day and go play the game. And so we don't have any plans to go to the Rose Bowl prior to the game. I always tell the players that, the field's going to be 53 yards wide and 100 yards deep, and they're going to line it off a certain way, and we got to go play. So maybe that's not very smart on my part, but
it's worked.
Won a few games.
I don't know if you see the number underneath your name there. Yeah, I think it has worked because it could become something where you overthink it too, where it's like, all right, we're here. Guys are starting to think about this and that. I didn't like the way you were talking about the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, whoa.
What are you saying?
It's the granddaddy of all.
Yeah, what are you talking about? They had a parade.
Yeah, come on.
I love the role. My first year in coaching, I was at Southern Cal.
Sure.
We played Ohio State, Coach Saban, and it was 1984, my first year GA, and we played Ohio State, beat them 20-17.
Suck it, AJ.
The Rose Bowl's awesome.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. So just be prepared for that locker room, Coach.
Coach, didn't you started Big Ten, obviously, where your coaching ranks were. Michigan State, every time they have a coaching job open, they're like, Saban's coming back. Saban's coming back. But the Rose Bowl obviously holds a very near and dear place in your heart, I assume, from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah, well, 2 years at Ohio State, 10 years at Michigan State. It's, as you guys have said, the granddaddy of them all. And when you're in the Big Ten for 12 years, that's everybody's goal. Because in the old days, the Big Ten champ got to go to the Rose Bowl, and that's the way it was, and that's what everybody was shooting for. So I've always held, the Rose Bowl in very high esteem. And the couple opportunities that I've had in 2009, we played Texas here, and I was at Michigan State. We played USC here once, but in the Rose Bowl. So this is a first-class bowl game. It's a first-class organization. It's a first-class city. It's a great place to play. I think the whole Rose Bowl itself in Pasadena has a unique, sort of setting for, players to be able to compete in. So this is a great experience for our team and our players. And, we just got to do what we got to do to finish.
Hell yeah, Coach. Well, enjoy it all. And if you see Mickey Mouse again, make sure you let him know we think maybe he lost his fastball a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. We don't 100% sure. Haven't been around. Just watch. You're not saying that's the case. Mickey Mouse still has his fastball?
Well, the only thing I know about that picture is Mickey Mouse is the only guy that I was taller than in the whole picture, which made, that helped my ego a little bit.
Let's bring Mickey Mouse around more often. Ladies and gentlemen, head coach of Alabama, 7-time national champion, just days before college football playoff at the Rose Bowl against Michigan. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Nick Saban. Thank you, Coach.
Good luck, Coach.
You guys have a good one, man.
Yeah, you
Happy
too.
New Year.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. See you out there.